Hello, this is Hamlet, and this is my Proving Grounds DPS Silver Guide for level 100. In DPS Proving Grounds, unlike the other two, you're on your own. You face off against mobs that don't move and don't damage you, and all you have to do is kill them in time. Unlike the others, you do have to have all the mobs dead by the time one wave ends in order to continue on to the next one. One thing that's particularly helpful in DPS Proving Grounds is that the mobs spawn in the same place in each wave every time, so as you practice it more, you can develop more of a routine and refine your plan. This first mob is a Guardian, which stands still and puts up a shield facing in one direction. The shield covers 180 degrees of arc, and so you have to get behind it once the shield is up to do any damage. It is random which way it goes every time. That part is random, even though it's always standing in the same place. So oftentimes in waves with a Guardian, standing near the Guardian at the start of the wave is helpful, so you can just move slightly and always be behind it. Wave 2 is our first AoE wave. It's a small pack of AoE varmints plus one small slayer. So if you have a Fire and Forget AoE spell, like this Frozen Orb, you can drop that while you finish off the slayer. Otherwise, you can do one and then the other in whatever way is convenient. It's not that difficult of a wave, but it's the first time that you test your ability to use basic AoE spells. When you finish a wave early, as you can see, you do get to wait the full amount of time before the next wave spawns, which can generally be helpful depending on your class. You can regen resources, or you can do other things that help you prepare, or you can simply move into position to where you expect to start the next wave, like I'm doing here. Wave 3 introduces a new kind of mob that you'll see frequently through the rest of Proving Grounds, the Amber Weaver. This periodically spawns these amber globules that glide along the ground towards the player. They always chase the player, but if they hit either the player or another mob, they encase it in amber for 6 seconds, which stuns it and increases damage taken by 50%. In Silver, you don't have to worry too much about abusing the damage taken debuff for added damage, but you do want to make sure that you don't get stunned, since that can set you back pretty far. So you generally want to position so that amber globules will hit other enemy targets. Wave 4 combines an AoE wave with the amber globule. It generally winds up being a pretty easy wave. If you have a strong AoE spell, you can knock out the small varmints pretty quickly. Even if you don't, the amber globule, if you position here, will glide towards them and stun a small AoE pack of them, further increasing the damage they take. Basically, you just want to do whatever you can to AoE them easily while focusing down the big mob at your convenience. As you can see, again, I have a lot of time to spare. That'll tend to happen in DPS Proving Grounds once you've done the early waves in whatever difficulty you're on for a while. If you're having trouble in the later waves in any difficulty of Proving Grounds, you'll have done the early ones enough times that you have a routine that kills them very quickly. Wave 5 introduces the Mystic, which is the healer, and it's very important to interrupt his heals or to stun him or stop the heals in any way. The heal will first go off whenever any mob in the wave is below full HP by below some high percent, and after that it has a long cooldown. So you generally want to make sure to interrupt its first one with whatever interrupt spell you have and then try to burst it down quickly. Depending on your class, you may have enough interrupts that's very easy to stop every heal, or it may be the case that you really don't want to let the same Mystic heal twice because you won't necessarily have an interrupt for the second one. But pretty much in any case where there's a Mystic, you want to burst it down quickly while keeping your eyes open for one interrupt early in the process. Waves 5, 6, 7, and 8 all have a Mystic. Here it's again a large Mystic, so it has a lot of HP. You don't necessarily want to use a major cooldown here because you probably want to save it for 8, but minor cooldowns would be totally acceptable to use to burst down the Mystic. Wave 6 gives you a lot of time, so even if you're a little slow getting the Mystic down, you're going to have 35 or 40 seconds just to burst down 2 basic single target mobs, a large Guardian and a large Slayer. It can feel like it's pretty slow, but it's a small number of mobs and you can pretty much just burn these down at your leisure without using cooldowns or other resources once you have the Mystic out of the way. Wave 7 and 8 are, as expected, going to be the trickiest mobs in Proving Grounds. Both involve both Mystics and Amber Weavers, and in general, knowing where things position is going to help you a lot. Here, once again, I'm going to position for Wave 7 near the Mystic, and positioned such that when the Amber Globule does spawn and make its way over, it's going to stun the Mystic. This is helpful because he never even got a heal off, and now he's taking increased damage. So I use a minor DPS cooldown, Frozen Orb, to help get the Mystic down very quickly, and then I get into position so that the Amber Globules help me on the other mobs. Again, it's not so much about using the damage taken debuff as it is about not having to move around constantly to deal with the Amber Globules by making it so that they simply harmlessly hit other targets while I can stand still and DPS what I want to DPS. A big way that you tend to get behind in DPS Proving Grounds is if you have to continually run around in circles to deal with some Amber Globule that's chasing you, or even worse, if you get hit by it and then you get stunned for 6 seconds. So most of these waves are made much easier by having a plan of where you're going to stand and where you're going to move after killing each mob. Wave 8 is somewhat tricky with 2 Amber Weavers and a Mystic in between them. There are basically 2 ways to approach this. There's what I'm doing here, which is to DPS down the Mystic first, probably with a major cooldown. Try to position like this so you don't have to worry too much about the globules. You may have to hit one interrupt, and the Amber Weaver on the other side will help you keep it stunned. The other is to position in pretty much the same way, but to burst down an Amber Weaver first. Again, you may have to watch for an interrupt, but then after that point you can stand still and the Amber Weaver on the other side will keep the Mystic stunned for you. Either way works fine. Once you have either an Amber Weaver or the Mystic down, the wave is pretty easy. Once you finish the last mobs in Wave 8, you're done with Proving Ground Silver. You'll get your achievement if you don't have it already, and you will be able to queue as a DPS player in heroic LFD dungeons. Congratulations and have fun!